When society collapses, how long would you survive? Most people assume they'd make it, but history and survival logic say otherwise. In today's video, we're breaking down the critical phases of a societal collapse and why most people won't survive past them. Some will fall within hours, others within days, and after a month, only the strongest will remain. The truth is, most people are completely unprepared for what's coming. In this timeline, we'll walk through the key survival milestones, the dangers that will arise, and where the majority of people will fail. Let's get started. In the first 24 hours, most people won't even realize what's happening. They'll assume it's temporary, that the government will step in, or things will be back to normal soon. But this first phase is where critical mistakes are made, and for some, there won't be a second chance. The average person doesn't have a plan. They waste precious time making phone calls, scrolling social media for updates, or waiting on authorities to tell them what to do. Many will be glued to the news, hoping for an official statement that never comes. By the time they realize they need to act, the situation is already spiraling out of control. The moment people realize this isn't a drill, they rush to stores for food, water, and supplies. Shelves empty within hours, fights break out, and traffic grinds to a halt as people either try to evacuate or get back home. The panic buying leads to chaos, with people trampling each other over basic necessities. If you're not ahead of the curve, you're stuck in the madness. First responders are overwhelmed within hours. 911 lines are jammed, hospitals fill up, and law enforcement can't keep up with the looting and violence breaking out. Even those with medical emergencies struggle to get help as ambulances are either delayed or completely unavailable. If you're counting on help, it's already too late. By the end of the first day, the first wave of deaths has already begun. Accidents, violence, and medical emergencies with no response lead to the rising death toll. And this is just the beginning. In the first 72 hours, things start getting serious. Food and water shortages, crime, and desperation set in. The initial shock is wearing off, and the true struggle for survival begins. Those who didn't prep are starting to feel it, and their options are running out. Most households have about 3 days worth of food, but water runs out even faster. With stores empty and no resupply coming, the unprepared are already getting desperate. People start knocking on neighbors' doors looking for handouts. Some will share, others won't. Tensions rise as people realize they may not be able to rely on their community for help. Looting starts in full force. At first, it's stores and warehouses, but soon, homes start getting hit. Law enforcement is stretched too thin to help. Even neighborhoods that once felt safe are no longer secure. People who dismissed the idea of home defense now find themselves vulnerable, with break-ins and robberies becoming more violent. Those who hesitated to leave now realize they're trapped. Highways are blocked with abandoned cars, fuel is running low, and those still in cities are watching conditions deteriorate by the hour. Some attempt to flee on foot, but without a clear destination or supplies, they're just as vulnerable as those who stayed behind. By the 72-hour mark, an estimated 5 to 10% of the population is either dead or in critical condition. Those dependent on medication, the elderly, and those caught in the initial violence are the first major casualties. As fear and desperation grow, the survival divide between the prepared and the unprepared becomes even clearer. In the first 2 weeks, survival becomes about more than just supplies. Protection and strategy determines who makes it and who doesn't. The unprepared are now fully aware of how bad things have gotten, and many of them are desperate enough to do anything to stay alive. At this point, there are no more store shelves to loot. Fuel reserves are drying up, and hospitals are no longer functioning. If you don't already have what you need, you're out of luck. People begin searching abandoned buildings, breaking into homes, and scavenging whatever they can find. Those who were hesitant to take from others now see no other choice. Groups start forming for survival, but trust is low. Gangs and organized criminals have taken over parts of cities, while even good people are turning on each other. Someone you trusted a week ago may be ready to steal from you today. Some neighborhoods band together for protection, while others fall apart as people start looking out only for themselves. Without running water, trash and waste pile up. Diseases that were once easily treated now spread like wildfire. Simple infections, dehydration, and exposure start killing more people than violence does. The lack of sanitation turns even small wounds into potential death sentences, and without medication, once treatable illnesses become deadly. By the 2-week mark, the death toll has surged. An estimated 15 to 20% of the population is gone, either from violence, starvation, or disease. Those who are left are either fighters, well-prepared, or barely hanging on. In the first 30 days, society isn't coming back anytime soon. The weak are either dead or barely hanging on, and only those who are prepared or adapted are still in control of their fate. The survival gap between the prepared and the desperate is now undeniable. Those who thought they could wait it out are now starving, sick, or too exhausted to keep going. Cities are filled with bodies, abandoned homes, and the last desperate survivors who still believe help is coming. Many who lack survival knowledge and basic preparedness now realize too late that they won't make it. Even those who avoided violence up to this point may succumb to illness, malnutrition, or exposure. If you have food and water, you are now a target. Desperate people will do whatever it takes to survive. Even those who were once friendly may turn on you if their survival depends on it. The remaining unprepared will take bigger risks, raiding homes, forming dangerous groups, and resorting to violence without hesitation. At this stage, anyone still holding on to supplies must decide whether to stay hidden, defend what they have, or find a way to integrate into a trustworthy group. If you're not already thinking long-term, you're in trouble. Hunting, farming, bartering, and forming alliances are now the only path forward. People with practical skills such as growing food, treating medical conditions, or building shelters become highly valuable. If you haven't figured out a way to sustain yourself, your days are numbered, and relying on dwindling resources is no longer an option. By the 1-month mark, an estimated 25 to 30% of the population is gone. The remaining population is now in a permanent survival state. The point of no return has arrived. If order isn't restored soon, society as we know it may never come back. The first month after SHTF will break most people, not because they're weak, but because they never prepared. Some will adapt, some won't. But one thing is certain, if you don't have a plan before it happens, you probably won't make it. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with others. Join the Texan Prepper community by hitting that subscribe button. Keep an eye out every week for another video on emergency preparedness. Stay safe, keep prepping, and I'll see you on the next one.